Raise your right hand. The evidence that the court and jury at the trial of this issue should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So, yes, sir. Step this way.
All right, good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Just briefly about your education before joining the FBI.
Yes, I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a master's degree in criminal justice.
And how long have you been with the FBI?
Since May 2011, so I'm 13 years.
Are you a full-fledged special agent, or are you in some sort of support role, or what? What's your role?
No, I'm a special agent assigned to national security investigations.
Now, you are here because you analyzed some phone records for some of the people involved in this case to see whether you could determine where they had been on the night of October 4th into the morning of October 5th, and whether their phones had made any significant movements. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, what is the methodology that you used to do that?
We define it as cellular analysis. We basically look at cellular records provided by cell phone companies, and we match those records with cell tower lists, which are also provided by the telephone companies, and then we use relevant dates and times provided by investigators to create a report and analyze the location of a device.
Now, did you do this in your capacity as a member of CAST?
Yes, I did.
What is FBI's CAST?
So CAST is short for Cellular Analysis Survey Team, and it is a team of approximately 80 agents and task force officers spread throughout the United States. CAST performs three primary functions. We provide training on cellular analysis to state, federal, and local law enforcement partners. We also use the methodology and the techniques we're going to talk about today to track and locate people in real time. So we'll often be asked to help locate fugitives, help locate missing children, and unfortunately a lot of times locate the missing bodies or remains of victims.
Now, can you tell us about the training part?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
And the third primary function is to do what I'm doing today, to testify as an expert witness in trials.
Can you tell us about CAST training that you got that allows you to do this sort of analysis?
Sure. So CAST training starts with a basic course, which is just an introduction to cellular records that all agents, state, local, and federal law enforcement can participate. Once that class is completed, you can be invited to what's called an advanced course, which is reserved for FBI special agents and FBI task force officers only. After advanced course, you go on to what's called a field training certification, where you spend 3 days looking at prior investigations or cases. You're put in like a command post situation where they give you a time limit to solve a case and see if you can come up with the same solution that the original case agents did. And if you progress through those and you meet all the minimum requirements, you can be invited to CAST certification. CAST certification is a 4-week course. It consists of 1 week of training in RF theory, radio frequency theory. That's taught by PhD professors from the Florida Institute of Technology in Melbourne, Florida. After that, we have a week of training and interaction with the cellular providers. In my case, it was AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, and T-Mobile. Sprint, merged with T-Mobile, so now people no longer receive that training, but at the time I did from Sprint. And they bring in the people that produce these records that we're going to talk about. So when law enforcement submits a search warrant or a court order, they will provide these records. They talk about how they pull them, what all the columns mean, and then we also talk with the engineers that actually work on the towers and the networks in the field. After that, we receive some training in mapping, different types of software that we use. We also receive training in something we call drive testing, where we take equipment out and we do measurements of the actual footprint of a cell tower. So we can not only say what we believe the cell footprint or the cell tower footprint would be, we can, in some cases, actually map out the actual footprint of a cell tower.
And have you completed all of those steps that you just described?
Yes, sir.
And do you hold the CAST certification?
Yes, sir, since 2019.
All right, so since 2019, you've been full-fledged member of the CAST team?
Yes, I received the training, and we receive an annual recertification, which is 24 hours of training every year, generally consisting of those same things. We bring the carriers back in, they provide any updates to any of their records, and then we also receive training from other companies like Google, Apple, companies that provide other location-based services.
So aside from the training to do this type of analysis, since 2019, have you gotten experience actually employing this in cases?
Yes, I actually use this in my own cases. That's how most people become a CAST agent. You start using some of this technology in your own investigations. So I use it not only to help other agents or investigators with their cases, but I also use it daily, weekly, monthly in my own investigations.
And have you testified about it in court before today?
I have.
About how many times?
19 times.
And have you been accepted by courts as an expert witness before?
Yes, all 19 times.
Your Honor, at this time I would offer Special Agent Corley as an expert in the area of cellular analysis.
Objection, Your Honor.
The witness is accepted as an expert.
Now, in this case, did you receive a request or perhaps a series of requests from the Savannah FBI office to conduct this sort of analysis with respect to some cellular records that they had obtained?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did you receive cell phone records from Taylor Burns of the Savannah office?
That's correct.
Did these records include a set of phone records for a number identified to you as that of the defendant, Leilani Simon?
Yes.
Did they include phone records for a number identified to you as that of her boyfriend at the time?
Yes.
Did they include cell phone records for a number identified to you as that of a brother of hers that was living in the same house during the relevant time frame?
Yes.
And did they include cell phone records for a person identified to you as the father of the missing child?
Yes.
All right. Once you had these records, what did you do with them, in short?
So once I receive the records, first I do a check to make sure they're original records received from the phone companies. Nothing is out of the ordinary. And then I take the records and match them with a cell tower list. The records will provide you, in this case, we specifically use timing advance records. They provide you with the tower used, the sector of that tower used, and then the distance from that tower. So we're able to provide a general location of where a device is located. So I use those records and then produce some maps and a report showing where the phone was located during that time.
You mentioned you produced some maps. Have you, for today, prepared a presentation detailing your findings?
Yes, sir.
And do you believe that presentation will aid the jury in their understanding of your testimony?
Yes, very much.
Do you see in front of you a document marked as State's Exhibit 64?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us what that is?
This is my report.
Your Honor, at this time I would offer State's Exhibit 64.
No objection.
And I'd ask to publish it to the jury, Your Honor. All right. We're on page 1 of 12 here. Can you describe All right. Can you describe the contents of this first page here? What are we seeing here?
It's just a title slide with the 4 phone numbers that are included in the report and the date that the last edit was made onto the report.
Okay, so the top number, that would be the defendant's, right?
Correct, 5275.
That 910 number, the second from the top, would be that of her boyfriend?
Correct.
And the one below that, another 912 number, would be that of her brother, right?
That's correct.
And then the last one would be that of the child's father?
Correct.
Moving on to slide 2, can you tell us what we're seeing here?
Yeah, this is just an introduction that describes that methodology that I just spoke to you about. We take cellular records, tower list, and then the relevant date and times that are provided to us by investigators and produce a report using those data sets.
All right, moving on to slide 3, what are we looking at here?
So this is just a general picture of what a cell tower looks like. We've all seen them around. The most common one is going to be the one in the far right corner from me, the one that's labeled a monopole tower. That's the most common one, but they can also be a cell tower can be on the side of buildings. You would probably see that in the Savannah area. And then also based on certain statutes or regulations in certain cities or municipalities, they have to be hidden, but this is generally what cell towers look like.
Moving on to slide 4.
Yeah, so when you see that cell tower that's actually on the pole, a lot of people think of the pole or the apparatus as the tower, but the tower is actually the boxes that are on top of the poles. And in most instances, about 85% of all cell towers in the United States are configured in a 3-sector pattern. They could be configured in others, but by far the majority are 3 sectors. In this presentation, all of them are 3-sector towers. And what happens is the companies divide up the towers in those 3 sectors to service each side of an area. And they're generally divided in, you can think of a 360 degrees covers the full circle, and each sector is divided up into about 120 of that. So if you think of it as pie slices like it's illustrated on this map, each sector serves that general area.
So this diagram is, we're above a cell tower looking down on it.
Correct.
Yeah, these little gray boxes here are the antenna arrays that
Correct.
we were seeing in the last picture?
Yes, sir. That would represent the actual towers, what's transmitting that RF frequency or receiving that RF frequency.
Okay. So each tower, 3 sectors, about 120 degrees each.
Yes, and in the records, the tower list that I referenced earlier, it will tell you the azimuth of that sector. So the azimuth is the direction that the center of that sector points at. So in this orientation, one sector has an azimuth of 0, which is true north. Sector 2 has an azimuth of 120, and Sector 3 has an azimuth of 240. And once you know those, you know how to orient the pi wedge on your map to show which direction the tower's pointing.
And when a set of cell phone records says that a phone was hitting on a particular tower, does it also say which sector of that tower?
The cell phone records will, and you have to then refer to the tower list to find the orientation of each sector.
Okay. Slide 5.
So this is just in general narrowing down what you're going to see on the slide is one sector pointing towards the azimuth and covering that 120 beam width. We like to point out that the shaded arc is not the coverage area of a tower. It's just to help you orientate towards which direction that tower is facing.
Okay. In other words, the coverage of this sector doesn't end where the red shading ends. It's just a visual aid to show you which direction.
Correct, and it's helpful when you have multiple calls bouncing off sectors, so you know that these 2 were used and the third one wasn't. So
Slide 6.
So this is what the sector will look like on a map once we've determined that a call activity or network activity has happened on that sector, and we've put it with the azimuth, and so you can see the general area. And what you also see on the maps are neighboring towers. So in this one, you have a tower here to the north, and we're able to use that sector and that beam width of 120 degrees in relation to the next neighboring tower and figure out a general area of where a cell phone would be located based on the tower coverage of that area.
Slide 7, timing advance explanation. What is this?
So timing advanced is engineering data that the cell phone companies use to help optimize their network. So if you were to call in and say, I'm having problems with my cell phone, probably the first place they would look is the timing advanced data, and they would see when a cell phone is in your location and it's a distance from the tower, what does the reception look like? And if they have problems, they'll then tweak their networks or maybe provide you a booster or something like that. But this data is collected and it's aggregated from the companies. This is not, it can be collected when your device is doing nothing. As long as your device is powered on, timing advanced data can be collected from the network. And they use a measurement of time, how far it takes, or how long it takes a signal to reach the tower and then back to your phone, and they're able to calculate that into a distance. So now with timing advanced, we have the sector, which is 120 degrees, the direction it points, and the distance from the tower. So on the map, this curve represents the location of that device. It could be anywhere on that arc and at that distance from the tower.
So you say, it allows you to say, we know which sector this phone is using, and we know about how far away it is from the tower, but we don't know exactly where in that sector it is, but it's somewhere inside of this bent hot dog?
Correct.
Okay. And again, the person does not have to be making or receiving calls or sending or receiving text messages to get timing advanced data?
No, sir. It's as long as the phone's on, the network can collect activity from timing advance. It also could collect timing advance in connection with a phone call or a text message or a data session, but it collects when the phone is sitting there also. And the one thing that we note at the bottom of this is, timing advance is a measurement of time. So, let's say there's an obstruction, like this stand is in the way of my signal to the tower, and that has to go around that for that split second. So in some instances, the device will appear to be further out than it is because of that split second it had to go around. So sometimes you will see an arc that is just outside the location of a phone, but the phone can never be further out. The phone can never be outside of the arc. It will always be inside of the arc.
Moving on to slide 8.
Again, this is just to show what the timing advance band will look like on the map. Again, we have the neighboring cell tower, but we don't need to use that to make a guess because they've given us the distance from the tower that was used during that event. So that arc represents the distance that the device is.
And just to be clear, is this image, this map image here, specific to our case that we're here for today, or is this just a kind of a demonstrative?
No, these are just general, same ones I use for every presentation, so it is not Savannah.
Okay. Moving on to slide 9. So first of all, this is timing advance mapping for the boyfriend cell phone, right?
Yeah, the phone ending in 1458.
Okay. Can you walk us through this, just kind of hitting all the component parts and what it is that it's telling us? Because there is a lot going on in this slide. There is
a lot going on. This is the timing advanced activity for that phone between October 4th at 10:30 p.m. and October 5th at 5:49 a.m. And what it shows is that the timing advanced arcs line up with a general area of the blue call-out box, which is the address I was given as the residence of the person that uses this phone. And what you can do with the timing advance in these instances is you can look at where timing advance overlaps with each other, and it makes that X, so that you know that the phone could be anywhere along those bands, but when you have two overlapping bands, it's going to be somewhere in there where near where the bands overlap, or it makes an X.
Okay, so just to be clear here, we'll start. Looks like we got this phone. 3 different towers gathered timing advance data for this phone during this time frame.
4 different towers. If you look at the tower at the top, 4 different sectors.
Okay, 4 different sectors. All right, so this one on the left here, right? You're saying at some point during the night, this phone was hitting on this tower,
Yeah, there were 22 events on that tower.
which would put it in this band.
Correct.
And at some point in the night, it was hitting on this tower here, moving to the right.
Yeah, there was 1 event on that tower.
And where's the band for that one?
Can I stand up here?
Yeah, sure.
So this band here would line up with this tower. This band that runs from here to here.
Okay. And then, was it hit this tower here, moving to the right, the one that says CID 1755? Tell us about this and where the band for it is.
So there are 23 events off both of these. Same tower, 2 different sectors. And what you'll see on a lot of towers is they stack on top. So if you ever see a tower and you see like there's almost like a parking garage, they're all in the same location, but level 1, level 2, level 3, they're all built to service more customers. So if there's an increase in customer base, instead of putting up a new tower, they're generally just going to stack more towers on top of that pole.
Okay, so is that why they're not offset like 100 degrees, 120 degrees from each
Correct.
other? Because it's not 2 separate sectors of the same tower. It's
Yeah, so this is likely 2 towers sitting right on top of each other, one slightly pointed in a different direction than the other. So this would still be sector 3. These are probably both sector 3 towers, one with a slightly different azimuth.
okay.
And these bands are represented. You can see the one, so this one that's a little to the right, these 2 bands here that go and stop a little bit short, and the one that's pointed up here starts here and goes down to here.
Okay. And you're saying it's the intersection of these bands where that phone would have been during this time frame?
Correct. During certain time periods, you can see if for instance, if there's a call, I think there was a call at 10:48 on this band, and then there's a call 30 seconds later on this band. Well, you can't be here on this band and then here on this band in 30 seconds. So you have to naturally start looking at where do these bands overlap, and you can start narrowing down the location of where they could be within those bands. And then you can just look at geography, like there's no roads here, there's no roads over here, there's no roads here. So you can start eliminating some places on timing advance and start narrowing down to where it's likely at during that time.
Is it your opinion that this phone appears to have been in the area of 535 Buckhalter Road for the entirety of this time frame here?
The timing advance data would be consistent with it being at that location for the timing advance data that I have.
All right, through the night.
Through the night. They started at 10:30 and ended at 5:49.
Did you see any indication that that phone left the residence at any point that night?
No, this is all the timing advance data that we had for that telephone.
Moving on to slide 10, this would be the same, generally the same time frame, but for the brother's phone, right?
Yes, this one's at 11 instead of 10:30. That was the first timing advanced event, and then this one went to 9 a.m. Originally, we did some different analysis on the last phone to show where the phone went after 5:49, but this one was in the same location until 9 a.m.
Okay. And so, again, we're looking at where the bands intersect to tell where this phone appears to have been through this time frame?
Yeah, so these were both Verizon phones, both using the same towers, with the exception of that one event that happened on one other tower from the last slide. These are the same towers, same timing advance measurements, all lining up with being consistent with servicing that resident.
And do you believe that the timing advance data that you looked at for this phone is consistent with the phone having been at 535 Buckhalter Road for during the time frame on the top of the slide there, 11 p.m. to 9 a.m.?
Yes, these timing advance bands would service that area.
Okay. Did you see any evidence in the timing advance data through your analysis that this phone left the residence at any point during that time frame?
There were no timing advanced events that led me to believe that.
Okay. Moving on to slide 11. This would be cellular analysis for the child's father's number, is that right?
That's what was described to me, yes, sir.
All right. What is the area depicted on the map here? Where are we in the world here?
Up near the South Carolina-Georgia line. I'm gonna have to look closer at I'm not familiar with up near Sardis, Millhaven, that area.
What's that town? What's that town in the top left of the slide there?
Waynesboro,
Okay, so not too far from there.
not too far from Waynesboro.
All right. What's kind of the bottom line conclusion as to the child's father's phone's location from the period on the slide here, 11 p.m. on the 4th to shortly before 9 a.m. on the
Yep.
5th.
All the phone data and timing advance indicated that that phone was up in that area near the Georgia-South Carolina border for that entire time period.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Any indication that it came anywhere near Savannah that night?
There were no records indicating that it was anywhere other than these locations.
Now, we've come to the end of the report, but let me ask you this. Did you also do the same sort of analysis with respect to the defendant's timing advance data?
Yes, I did.
And did you also look at her Life 360 GPS data as well?
Yes, I did.
To keep it simple, I'd just like to refer you to some things that we've already heard from Taylor Burns.
Okay.
And let me ask you this. You originally had slides pertaining to her, right?
I did.
And is it fair to say that there were more of them and that they were more complicated because her phone had made a couple significant movements from the house during that night?
Yeah, there were several slides. I don't remember the exact number, but I think probably 10, somewhere close to that, with additional data, with a lot of timing advanced and a lot of movement of a phone.
Now, to keep it simple, I'll just ask you about your review of Taylor Burns' screen capture videos of his GPS plotting, okay? Did you review a screen capture video of Taylor Burns' GPS plotting from the defendant's phone in Life 360 records, showing that phone making a movement first to a Circle K and then later to a location identified as her drug dealer's house?
Yes, in my original analysis, they provided some other phones and another location, and the phone was consistent with moving towards that area.
Okay. And after reviewing that screen capture video produced by Taylor Burns, can you tell us whether your analysis of that movement as reflected in her phone records and Life 360 records aligns with the product that Taylor put together?
So the Life 360 GPS coordinates are going to be more specific, but the timing advance lined up with the same pattern of movement as the Life 360 records.
Okay. Did you also look at a screen capture video of GPS plotting that Special Agent Burns did showing a movement by the defendant's phone to the Azalea Mobile Home Plaza, remaining there stationary for a short period of time and then returning to 535 Buckalter Road?
Yes.
Did your analysis of her timing advance data for her phone number for that period line up with Special Agent Burns' GPS plotting of that movement?
Yes, the timing advance data was consistent with that same movement.
Did you review a screen capture video that Special Agent Burns produced pertaining to the boyfriend's cell phones, or the boyfriend's Life 360 records, showing in the early morning hours a movement away from the phone, from the home to his workplace, him remaining there for a few hours, and then returning back to the home? Did you see that video?
I did.
And did your timing advance analysis for the defendant's phone record, for the boyfriend's phone records during that time period line up with what Special Agent Burns had produced in the way of GPS mapping for that time period?
Yes, it did.
Okay. One moment, please. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Dean? Did you hear it?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Special Agent Corley, you said you've been in the FBI for 13 years?
Yes, sir.
And I assume, and I'm just trying to figure it out. Did you work anywhere before the FBI, or were you in school?
No, I was a captain in the United States Air Force.
Okay, and how long were you a captain in the Air Force for?
9 years. Well, I'm sorry, I was a captain for 5. I was a lieutenant for 4.
Thank you for your service, Special Agent. All right, let's go back to your illustration, if I could, just to see if I can make sense of what it's saying and what we're trying to say with it. Is the sectors kind of give you a wide, broad swath in which a phone is pinging off of that tower, right?
Ping to me means a different thing, but yes, it's a general directional. RF frequency doesn't stop at a line on the ground, so it's more of an ambiguous like shape, but it is a general representation of that tower's coverage.
Right, and all I'm trying to get at is, when I say pinging, I mean the phone is interacting with the tower in that sector in some way.
Yes, there's a date and timestamp of an event that produces that record.
Right, but all that record really produces is that there's been interaction with that sector of that tower with that phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so and that's all I'm trying to get at. So with regard to the boyfriend's phone, it says here that there were 22 events, it looks like, off of the tower near, this is off page 9 of your report. There were 22 events off the tower near the Sky Zone Trampoline Park. between the hours of 10:32 and 5:48, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the analysis and the data that you got, does it tell you what those events were, or does it just tell you that there were 22 events?
So these were all timing advanced data. So there were network interactions. So there was nothing that the phone was doing. There was no calls, no text messages,
Right.
nothing like that that aligned with this timing advanced data. These were all network measurements.
So it's just saying that this tower and this phone are interacting 22 events in this time frame.
Correct.
Okay. And the next question I have is, and then it has one event from the other tower closer to Hunter during the same, I guess at 10:57.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay. And that event, was that a timing advance event, or was that a phone call, or what was it?
These are all timing advanced events.
Okay, so it didn't register the phone call, correct?
This does not require any user interaction with the phone.
Right. And so this time frame is pinging off of, I guess, an adjacent tower, correct?
It is pinging off a neighboring tower, yes, sir.
All right. And the other tower to the top right of that has the 23 events, let's say.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Don't know, just asking. Would that tower encompass the other events, or are these separate events?
These are all separate events.
Okay, so the total events that you looked at for this time frame would be 23 events from the one tower, 22 events from the Sky Zone tower, and 1 event from the Hunter Army Airfield tower.
Correct.
Okay. So, and that, again, it's just timing advance events. It doesn't require anything from the phone or any interaction. This is just the phone and the towers talking, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, my question is it looks like and I'm horrible with math, so correct me if I'm wrong. There's a total of 46 events in this time frame for this particular phone, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's all just the towers interacting with the phones, correct?
Correct.
So, is it normal to have the towers switch like that?
Yes.
Okay. So it's nothing indicative of anything other than it's just switching between the towers.
Yeah, so if you were making a phone call or using a text message or using your phone for a data session, the phone is selecting which tower it's going to use. And in most cases, not most cases, in all cases, it's going to select the tower with the cleanest, the best signal. Most of the time, that's the closest tower, but not always. But in these events, these are just network measurements. So the measurements often, they don't even have to be a usable cell phone signal. They're just measuring the distance of the devices, taking and saying, well, what's this phone look like when it's at this distance from this tower? And then they aggregate that data to do whatever engineering they need to do with it. So it doesn't matter what the phone's doing, and it doesn't follow the same rules as, we wouldn't say, if we didn't have the distance from the companies that tell us how far it is, this would be not usable, because then it would just be like, well, it's bouncing off a bunch of different towers. How do we know where it's at? But because we have the distance, we can use it, even though it is using multiple different towers.
And that's kind of what I'm getting to is let's assume the phone's stationary and hasn't moved.
Mm-hmm.
The analysis that you're doing, it's these phones and these towers are doing their own thing, determining which tower to use and which signal to use and how to bounce back and forth with little or no interaction from the user, correct?
That could be correct, yes, sir.
Right. Not always correct, but in this particular case, that's correct. Right?
Could be, yeah.
Okay. All right. And that being said, the analysis doesn't ever actually say who is in possession or carrying or using the phone either.
No,
Yeah.
I can't tell you that, no, sir.
Right. And you have to look at other things to know that, correct?
Well, I mean, I would say there's probably never an instance where I can say 100% that person had the phone unless I was sitting next to them and watching them use the phone. So it could be picked up by somebody else. But yeah, I can't determine who was using the phone.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions I got. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Porter.
you.
Is there any reason to hold this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, you are excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Statement, call us next witness.
Special Agent Snyder.
Please display the right hand. The evidence you shall give the court and jury in the trial of this issue shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
How long have you been an FBI special agent?
Approximately 18 years.
Can you just briefly tell us about your education before joining the FBI?
Sure.
So I attended college at Appalachian State University. After college, I joined the Marine Corps as a Marine Corps officer. Spent approximately 8 years on active duty in the United States Marine Corps, and then joined the FBI after leading active duty.
Can you tell us a little bit about your FBI career leading up to this case?
Sure. So I currently serve as the coordinator for the FBI's Southeast Georgia Violent Crimes Task Force. Prior to that, I've been here in the Savannah office for about 15 years. Worked both violent crime cases, violent crimes against children cases, national security cases here in Savannah, as well as throughout the country and abroad.
Now, on October 5th, day one of this investigation, did you become involved in investigating the disappearance of Quinton Simon?
I did.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you initially became involved? You know, the phone call or the conversation or whatever it was that brought you into this?
Sure. On our task force, we have a intelligence analyst with the Savannah Area Regional Intelligence Center. On that October 5th morning, we got an email from that analyst advising us of a potential kidnapping, abduction within the county. So upon receiving that email, I reached out to Detective Lemons with the Chatham County Police Department just to offer the services of the FBI. At that point in time, they really didn't have a clear picture as to what they had. So approximately an hour later, Detective Lemons called back and said,
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
It's offered to the effect on the listener, Your Honor. How did you become involved? I got a phone call. That's admissible.
Not what she said. You can testify about the effect without what she said.
You may want to rephrase your question, Mr. Dean.
After getting this phone call from Lemons and getting kind of the big picture of what was going on, did you respond to the Chatham County Police Department headquarters?
We did.
All right. And when you got there, what was going on?
Detective Lemons was starting the initial triage of interviews, gathering the individuals that were at the residence at the police department.
And on that day, you participated in a series of interviews with the defendant, Leilani Simon?
I did.
And you were paired up with Detective Lemons for that, right?
I was, yes, sir.
There were some other federal, local interview pairs that day as well, right?
That's correct.
All right. We've seen a lot of this interview footage from October 5th, but I'd like to ask you a few questions about it. We're not going to play it all back. At this time, had you received any particular training in interviews, interrogations prior to this day?
At this time, an 18-year career, I've done a lot of interviews. The FBI, like many law enforcement organizations, has numerous techniques, sophisticated techniques that we rely on throughout the course of investigation. But I would say the technique that moves the needle the most is interviews. And this particular investigation, we've done a lot of interviews, and really we have to let the interviews tell the story in this investigation.
Now, I'd like to ask you a couple questions about the defendant's demeanor during these October 5th interviews. Her demeanor, her tone, her volume, okay? Was her demeanor, tone, and volume, was it consistent throughout these interviews, or did it change from one thing to another at various points, or what?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for opinion.
Mr. Dean, I was listening to objection.
Yeah. The witness personally observed her demeanor, tone, and volume. This is not a matter of opinion, it's a matter of personal observation.
Can you state the question?
Did her demeanor, tone, and volume, was it consistent throughout these October 5th interviews, or did it change at times?
I'll allow that.
Her demeanor was inconsistent, erratic. The responses I would characterize as shallow emotional responses, and that on a dime there would be crying with no tears, and then moments later, without really any transition, it would go to a normal conversation.
Now, what would cause, what sort of lines of questioning would cause the crying with no tears and the increase in volume and rapidity of speech and things like that? When would that happen?
Anytime the pattern of questioning, pressed her on a particular issue she was uncomfortable with, that's when the defendant would become erratic and behave in that manner.
Now, I'd like to ask you just a couple questions about her story on day one on October 5th. Did you all talk to her about a trip that she had made away from the house sometime shortly after 1 a.m.?
We did.
And what was her story at that time as to what she was doing there?
At that particular time, it was to pay a front for Danny, her boyfriend at the time.
I'm asking you about the trip after 1 a.m., not the earlier one in the night. What was your story as to the trip after 1 a.m.?
After 1 a.m., that was to go see an individual by the name of Melissa Bray to get Oragel. She had just recently had her wisdom tooth pulled the day prior, and her story was she departed the residence at 1 a.m. to go get Oragel from Melissa Bray.
What was she calling Melissa Bray at that time on day one?
That was Misty, as she referred to Melissa Bray. Misty.
And initially, you were telling me about a story that she was given for a different trip, right? That was the one after 10:30, 11 o'clock or so?
That's right.
Okay. I'd like to ask you just a couple questions about the days immediately following October 5th, okay? Did a local team kind of coalesce and come together to investigate this matter?
We did.
And can you describe the composition of the local team? Like, who was involved in this thing?
Sure. So the Chatham County Police Department had two primary investigators, Detective Lemons and a Detective Noble. They were supported by a cadre of additional investigators, supervisors. Our FBI team consisted of myself, Special Agent Solomon, Special Agent Burns, and we were also supported by a cadre of FBI agents from Augusta, from Brunswick, and then at that point in time, once we had our local investigative teams together, we started reaching out to other resources that both the FBI and Chatham County had at their disposal.
Can you describe some of this outreach to other units and resources that come to mind?
Sure. So the FBI has a team referred to as the CARD team, or the Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team. So once we realized the situation at hand, we immediately sought the assistance of our Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team. We contacted our Behavior Analysis Unit at FBI headquarters in Quantico, commonly referred to as FBI profilers. They provided a substantial amount of subject matter expertise. We also contacted FBI CAST, the Cellular Analysis Survey Team. They were able to take a very detailed look at the telephones associated with this investigation. We also reached out to our CART team, Computer Analysis Response Team, and they were able to do a lot of work with a particular infotainment system within the vehicle driven by the defendant.
What about the DFAU? Did y'all use them for anything?
We did Digital Forensics Analysis Unit. They did a lot of video, audio enhancement, specifically video enhancement, and then audio enhancement as it relates to some of the interviews to clarify various points where the audio wasn't as clear as we wanted it to be.
Can you think of any resources y'all didn't use in this case?
Truly no. In this investigation, we utilized resources in a very finite amount of time. Really, what it spanned, probably 8 days. And normally, the investigative techniques we employed in 8 days is something that we would use across a 6-month to a year-long investigation. Just to give merit to the monumental effort, that both the FBI and the Chatham County Police Department undertook in very short order.
All in service of finding Quinton and identifying the person responsible.
Yes, sir.
Now, the plan and priorities over the first couple of days after these October 5th interviews of all these 3 people, did that include some follow-up on Henry Bubba Moss Jr.?
It did, yes, sir.
And who had point on that? What office or people?
Because at the time, Henry Moss Jr. was living in Burke County. Burke County falls under our Augusta resident agency for the FBI. So our Augusta office took lead in interviewing with Henry Moss.
Did it include some follow-up on Daniel Youngkin and his behavior and so forth that morning?
Yes, sir, it did.
All right, and who had point for that?
That was Detective Noble, I believe, as well as Special Agent Solomon.
And what was it that they did at his workplace?
When they arrived at the workplace, they sought the assistance of Danny Youngkin's boss, an individual by the first name of David, I believe. They obtained video of Danny actually departing work frantically. They could observe on the video Danny departed his place of employment in such a hasty fashion that he forgot his jacket, he forgot to clock out, and ended up encountering his supervisor as he was running to the vehicle. His supervisor described Danny hysterical and crying.
He's already answered the question. He's just giving a narrative outline and testimony at this point of other witnesses. So I'd say it's
That's right. I agree. Right. Let me just ask you this question about the efforts at Danny's workplace. Okay, why was it his workplace is not the scene, right?
That's correct.
Why was it important to you all to go out to his work and figure out what he looked like and acted like there?
It was a process to corroborate the story that Danny had provided at the time. It gave us the opportunity to see the immediate reaction of Danny once he received that phone call from the defendant. So that was one of the main reasons, was to corroborate the story and get that immediate reaction, something that without that video, we wouldn't be able to have observed.
Now, during this investigation, did you have kind of ongoing interactions with Danny Youngkin?
I did.
Did you get a sense in interacting with him for his level of sophistication, intelligence, and so forth?
I did.
With that background, do you believe that he would be?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
I do not believe it does, Your Honor.
I didn't hear the question.
Okay. Do you believe that he would be capable of acting or thinking to act in a particular way?
I'm going to sustain that objection.
Okay. Let me ask you about the October 8th interview. Okay, we've heard testimony about an interview on October 8th at the FBI office in Savannah with an interviewer from Quantico named Bridget Brock. Okay, were you present for that interview?
I wasn't present for the interview, but I observed the interview in a remote location within the office.
Okay, you're watching it on like a live feed or something like that?
That's correct.
Okay. And let me ask you this about, because I don't know that I've asked anybody else this. The location in which that interview was conducted, is that in Chatham County?
It is. It's at the FBI office off Chatham Parkway here in Savannah.
Okay. And the October 5 interviews at Chatham County Police Headquarters, were those in Chatham County as well?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay. Is it fair to say that in the lead up to this October 8th interview with Bridget Brock, that the two most significant investigative findings were your interview
Objection, Your Honor,
with,
leading question.
Rephrase the question.
prior to that October 8th interview, had you interviewed Melissa Bray?
I had.
Can you tell me first about the process of locating her in the first place?
We first learned of Melissa Bray through an interview of the defendant. The defendant provided us information that she previously worked with Melissa Bray at a restaurant located off of Highway 17 in Chatham Parkway here in Savannah. And I went to the restaurant, approached Miss Bray during working hours, and asked Miss Bray if she had some time after she was off work for the day to speak with me. She advised that she did. She would be more than happy to speak with the FBI. I arrived at a residence at approximately 3:30 in the afternoon of October the 6th.
And what were you asking her? What were you looking for from her?
The main thing we were trying to seek from Miss Melissa Bray was whether or not she had any recent interaction with the defendant.
And what did she tell you?
Ms. Bray provided that she hadn't had any recent interaction. However, she provided text messages and, that the last time she had contact face-to-face with the defendant was July the 5th. She received a text message or a phone call. Actually, I believe it was a text message from the defendant. The defendant said she had run out of gas, needed a gas can. Miss Melissa Bray, as well as her husband, supported the defendant in getting that gas. And then after that, there were a series of text messages on July 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and I believe the 13th, where Miss Bray was trying to get the gas can back from the defendant. I observed the text messages myself. There was never a response. The gas can was not returned. So really, from July the 5th, there had been no contact whatsoever, according to Miss Bray, between Mrs. Bray and the defendant.
Now, in your view, did the text messages that you looked at corroborate what Melissa Bray was telling you about the last time she had seen the
Objection, Your
defendant?
Honor, comes back to opinion again.
Give me the question again.
Did the text messages corroborate what Melissa Bray was telling you?
I'll allow that question.
Second objection, then a bolstering, Judge. Witness has not been attacked.
It's
I'm
not-
going to allow the question.
Did the text messages corroborate what she was telling you?
Absolutely, 100%.
Now, so that was done before the October 8th interview with Bridget Brock.
That's correct, yes, sir.
And prior to that October 8th interview with Bridget Brock, had the investigative team obtained some important video footage?
We had.
And just broadly tell us what that was.
That was CCTV footage obtained from the Azalea Gardens trailer park.
And in this October 8th interview with Bridget Brock, did the defendant stick to the Misty story?
Absolutely.
Now, moving forward from this, that night, the night of the 8th, This is when the hotel monitoring operation was conducted, right?
That's correct.
Now, were you involved in setting that up, or at least discussing it with Daniel Youngkin?
I was
And when had that discussion taken place?
on October the 7th.
Okay. Can you describe, approaching Danny and bringing this up, and who else might have been there for this conversation?
That was an interview conversation that we had with Danny Youngkin with Agent Savannah Solomon on October the 7th at our office. We disclosed to Mr. Youngkin, to Danny at the time, the facts that we had learned at that point in the investigation. We disclosed to Mr. Youngkin the
Objection, Your Honor. It's a narrative from the witness again. I don't think that's a question that Mr. Dean asked him.
I asked him to describe the circumstances of approaching Mr. Youngkin about this operation, proposing this operation. This is a totally responsive answer.
It's a narrative, Judge. I mean, if he has a direct question, he needs to ask a direct question, not an open-ended one to allow the witness to say whatever he wants.
I don't think in this case it was. I'm going to overrule the objection.
You can continue.
So again, we were able to disclose to Mr. Youngkin the facts of the investigation that we obtained at that point, and two of those important facts at that point were the surveillance footage that we obtained from the Azalea trailer park, as well as the interview that I had conducted the previous day of Ms. Melissa Bray, in which she had no recollection whatsoever of having any interaction with the defendant regarding the ordeal story.
And did you ask him if he would agree to this filming and audio monitoring in the hotel room?
We did.
How did he react to that?
He was on board 100%, whatever he needed to do, he was glad to do it.
Did he seem nervous? Did he stutter? Anything like that?
No, sir.
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for opinion again.
It's
Now-
based on,
now-
actually, it's based on what his observations were. I'm going to allow it.
The answer to that question was no.
That's correct.
Let me ask you about October 12th. So this would be 4 days after the October 8th interview with Bridget Rock, right?
Yes,
In which she had insisted that the Orgel story was true, right?
correct.
Now, this October 12th interview, where was it conducted?
That interview was also conducted at our FBI office here in Savannah off Chatham Parkway.
In Chatham County?
Correct.
And who was involved in this interview?
That was myself and Special Agent Solomon, also with the FBI.
What type of room did it take place in?
A large conference room, approximately half the size of this room that we're in today.
And was it recorded?
It was.
Audio and video?
That's correct, yes, sir.
In this interview, did the defendant's story change?
Yes, sir, it did.
And how did it change? In what parts of it changed, I guess?
Really, three main points came out of this interview. The first change was the admission of significant drug use on the night of the 4th and the morning of the 5th. The interaction with Miss Melissa Bray and the Orgel story, that was a significant change. Where over the course of the interview, she disclosed, agreed that actually did not happen. And then we obtained significant information as it relates to her purpose in the trailer park that night and throwing away trash.
What did she say about, we're going to watch it, but kind of overview, what did she say about throwing away trash in the trailer park?
Initially, the whole purpose of going to the Azalea trailer park was to get the Orgel from Miss Melissa Bray. But once we confronted her that I myself had interviewed Miss Melissa Bray and Melissa Bray was not able to corroborate that story, she told us that she also had trash in the back of the vehicle that was placed in there the night prior, or the day prior, approximately 4:30 on the 4th. And the trash, being that Miss Melissa Bray was not there, the trash was smelling up the car. So at 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:15 in the morning, when she drove by Miss Melissa Bray's house, she wasn't there. She took that opportunity to throw the trash that was in the back of the Dodge Journey into the dumpsters at Azalea Trailer Park.
Now, prior to this, on October 5th, had you all discussed with her this Azalea trip?
We had.
And had y'all discussed it with her at length on October 5th, what exactly she was doing there?
Multiple times, yes, sir.
And on October 8th, did Bridget Brock discuss this Azalea trip with her?
She did.
And was that also at length?
Yes, sir.
Now, on either of those days, October 5th and October 8th, had she said anything about throwing trash away at Azalea on that trip.
Never.
So as of October 12th, is it fair to say that this was new information from the defendant?
It was.
Did she talk to you about how much the trash weighed? Well, let me ask you this. First of all, what did she identify the trash as being specifically, to the extent you remember?
She identified it as being shrimp pasta. That was a meal that they had thrown away from the day or two prior.
Was she able to give you details on the estimated weight of the trash and the specific physical mechanics of throwing it away?
She was.
What did she say about those two things, the weight and how she did it?
When we were questioning her about that, this was towards the end of the interview, we asked how she threw the trash away. She described getting out of her vehicle on the driver's side, walking along the driver's side to the rear of the vehicle, opening the back hatch of the Dodge Journey, and then pulling the single trash bag out. She was asked how she pulled that bag out. Verbally, she said, "I pulled it out with one hand," but as she was demonstrating, how she pulled the bag out, she demonstrated using two hands to throw the trash bag into the dumpster. She also described before she went to throw the bag in the dumpster, she opened the bag and described smelling the bag before she threw the bag into the dumpster.
Was she able to tell you if this really was just a bag of old food, why she would have felt the need to look inside the bag one last time before throwing it away?
We asked her that multiple times in the interview, describing, is it normal for a person to, knowing that the vehicle was had an odor to it, is it normal for a person to smell the trash before they throw it in the dumpster? And the defendant really didn't have an explanation for that other than she was just smelling the trash before she threw it away.
At some point in this interview, did she say anything about taking responsibility?
She did.
What do you remember her saying about that?
We'll see it in the interview, but I can't recall verbatim, but it was something to the effect of, if I did this, I'll take responsibility. Verbatim, I can't recall exactly what she said.
Mr. Dean?
Yes, Your Honor.
The jury's indicated that they need a break. I figured they would need one at about 10:30 because they've been going at it now for about an hour and 15 minutes. So I'm going to ask you to stop at this point. I'm going to, let's take a 15-minute break. We'll come back, resume.
Deal with what we need to deal with for lunch.
Should we be on the record or off the record?
We can go on the record, Judge.
Okay, SBCR 22-033-6426. We're now back on the record. Before we bring the jurors out, Mr. Hilliard, you said there's something you want to bring up.
Yeah, I'm just waiting on this side.
All right, for the record, Ms. Simon is present in court and she is seated with her counsel. Counsel for the state are present as well. Mr. Hilliard?
Yes, last night I received an email from Mr. Dean late in the evening saying that he, as well as Detective Lemons and I believe it was Agent Schneider, if I'm not mistaken, had interviewed and spoken with Craig Weston and Tim Weston, and they were going to add them to the witness list and supplement the witness list. And my understanding was that they were to be called this afternoon. So, one, I would object to that under 17-16-6, and again, it may be somewhere, but I have not seen, at least in the last two witness lists, either Craig or Tim Weston listed as witnesses. It may have been an early one, and I missed it, number one, so I'll acknowledge that, but I don't think I did. I did go back and look, and I haven't seen them listed as witnesses heretofore until now. So we object on that as not being timely disclosed. Second, I would like to at least be given an opportunity to interview those witnesses. So on the one hand, I moved to exclude it under 17-16-6 as not being properly disclosed 10 days prior to trial. We're on the 9th day of jury selection and trial at this point. So obviously I don't think it fits in the 17-16-6, number one. So we moved to exclude both of those witnesses. Number two, if the court does not so exclude those witnesses, then I at least would like to have an opportunity to speak with those witnesses prior to them being called, given the statements that I'm being told or proffered that were made.
All right, thank you. Mr. Dean?
Your Honor,
Ms.
I'm going to
Ms.
respond
Parker?
on behalf of the state. Your Honor, excluding these witnesses is...
Ms. Parker, yeah,
I'll
this,
turn this one on. Can you hear me? Okay. Your Honor, excluding these witnesses is not the proper remedy here, especially when there is no unfair surprise. These witnesses, while not on the witness list, were included in materials that were provided to the defense. They have been referenced during the trial, even referenced by Mr. Hilliard. He was aware that these people existed. They're not somebody that we've just pulled out of thin air. The circumstances of the trial have caused us to change our mind about calling them. There is evidence that's now ruled admissible that includes text messages related to the Westons, and so we've decided we want to include them in our case. The defense could have talked to these people at any time. They were aware of them, and whether they want to have an opportunity to talk to them, that's fine. It's of course up to the witnesses where they're willing to talk to them or not. That's, not really our choice or something the court can order them to do. That's up to them. But we would like to call them this afternoon.
Go ahead, Mr. Hilliard.
I didn't know the state's position, but now that I know it, I can state a little bit further. 1716-6, Judge, by the way, we did opt into discovery in this case. The discovery statute was invoked, which means that 1716-6 comes into play. 1716-6 states specifically, if at any time during the course of the proceedings it is brought to the attention of the court, the state has failed to comply with the requirements of this article, which in this case would be disclosure of witnesses 10 days prior to trial once discovery has been opted into. The court may order the state to permit the discovery or inspection, interview of the witness, grant a continuance, or upon showing of prejudice and bad faith, prohibit the state from introducing the evidence not disclosed or presenting the witnesses not disclosed, or may enter such other orders as it deems just under the circumstances. At any time during the course of the proceedings, it is brought to the attention of the court that the defendants failed to comply. Those same remedies can be brought against us. I'm not the one positing or seeking to add 2 new witnesses in the middle of a trial. The one thing that is explicitly absent from this is me looking through and seeing that this was in evidence. My understanding is the court's ruling was those text messages were admissible. That doesn't mean because the state changes its mind 24 hours later they get to go back and they start adding witnesses. If we do that, the trials would never get finished. So I do believe it's prejudice. Giving me 2 witnesses and their statements at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night is definitely prejudicial when you're going to call them less than 12 hours later or 24 hours later. Number one. And number 2, it's bad faith at this point. If they had thought they were going to call them as a witness, they've had 2 years to put them on the witness list, which they were admitting they didn't do. So the proper remedy under that is to exclude the witnesses. It does not affect their ability to get into the text messages, which is what the court ruling dealt with from my understanding. So again, we object. I understand the court has to make its decision and will abide by that decision, but I don't think that they've complied with the discovery statute. I don't think that just because they've changed their mind over the weekend, their failure to comply with the discovery statute makes it permissible. So I think the witnesses should be excluded.
Thank you, Mr. Hilliard. Ms. Parker, anything else?
Just a moment.
Amanda. Ms. Parker.
Your Honor, I just wanted to point out that these particular witnesses were interviewed by law enforcement back when this case was investigated. That was provided to the defense. They're aware of these witnesses. So there's a whole long line of cases about unfair surprise. There is no unfair surprise here or prejudice to the defendants because the defense has been aware of these people all along. We can pull some of those cases for the court, but I mean, there's 50 years worth of case law on unfair surprise.
What the court is going to do is this. Mr. Hilliard may have an opportunity to interview those witnesses, and of course, that's if the witnesses wish to be, but he'll certainly have an opportunity to do that. I'm not going to exclude the witnesses, but you'll have an opportunity to speak with them.
I understand, Judge. That's why I said I need to at least speak to him. So.
I understand, Mr. Hilliard. Thank you very much. Is there anything further we need to take up for proceeding?
The only thing I might mention to the court is that the next thing we're going to do is introduce this October 12th interview video. It's extremely long in its unredacted form. Trimmed some stuff and redacted some stuff, and we end up with a final exhibit. Final product is like an hour and 13 minutes long. We're fine to proceed, but I wanted to just make the court aware of that before we do that. I don't know whether the court wants to do it now or ask the jury what the jury wants to do or what.
My inclination is to go ahead and do this before lunch. And then after you complete your direct, Mr. Hilliard, you could either do your cross before we break, or you can save your cross for after the lunch break.
To avoid a rebellion, Judge, I will most likely do it after the lunch.
The The court would not rebel, but the jurors may not be happy.
The jurors may.
Right, all right, bring in the jurors, please.
Jurors entering.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please have a seat. We're back from your break. I trust you were able to observe the instructions. Okay, thank you. And so we're going to resume now with the state's evidence at this portion. I will tell you this. The court anticipated breaking for lunch after this witness. During this, there's going to be a video, however, that's about an hour and 15 minutes long. Can y'all wait till after all this to get to lunch?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. I thought that would be the response, and that was my hope that would be your response. So we're going to proceed now.
Do you have up there with you this marked as State's Exhibit 70?
I do.
Can you tell us what that is?
It's a recorded interview from October the 12th, interview at the FBI office here in Savannah, Georgia.
Now, is that the entirety of the original recording of that interview?
It is not.
Can you tell us what has been cut off from the front end and where we're going to pick up?
We're going to pick up approximately 30 minutes plus or minus into the interview. There's a significant amount of rapport building, nothing really substantive to the case that takes place in the first portion of the interview that's cut out and that's redacted.
Does the recording on this disc fairly and accurately depict the portions of the interview that we've included here?
It does, absolutely.
And other than trimming some material off the front and back end and redacting some inadmissible information, has it been altered or modified in any way?
It is not.
Your Honor, I would introduce this as State's Exhibit 70.
Subject to the redactions we've already discussed. No.
Now, when we open this thing and start playing it, first of all, what are we going to see initially?
This is the conference room, a large conference room in the Savannah office of the FBI. You'll see myself on the right side of your screen, the defendant seated at a small circular table in the middle, and then Special Agent Solomon on the left side of your screen.
All right, I'm going to take the time to get it up here because it does seem like some people have been watching on this screen as opposed to the other one. Okay. And what are we going to hear you say at the outset here?
At the outset, it's an apology, to the defendant, based off a conversation that the defendant and I had following an October the 8th interview. That interview taking place also at the office, FBI office in Savannah.
Just briefly, what were you apologizing for, so we know what was going on here?
Sure. After the interview was complete, I went and wanted to impress upon the defendant the gravity of this case. It was really a one-way conversation. I explained to the defendant that the entire weight of the FBI and the Chatham County Police Department were going to ensure that justice was served in this case, that we were going to find Quinton and bring anyone responsible for that to justice.
And that was on October 8th after the interview with Bridget Brock?
Absolutely.
All right. With that preview, I'll go ahead and publish this by playing it for the jury. I want to tell you, I might stop it from time to time and ask you kind of what was that question and what did she say, because the audio is, I think it's passable, but it's not outstanding. Fair to say?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
All right.
I just wanted to apologize. I think you of all people know how stressful this entire situation is. Yes, we've been working 20-hour days, doing the best that we absolutely can to find Quinton. And I hope you understand that. And the stress that's involved in that. It's on everybody. It is. And yesterday or 2 days ago, probably should have just walked away. Let my emotions get the best of me. And I want you to understand that I apologize for that. It's not lost on me, to really you don't have another adult, male figure that you can,
And we was there with him, this is what one of those years, that's it.
So I'm sure you feel like I sort of abandoned you. Just when you feel, when we had that conversation. And then we talked to your mom just 2 days ago. And your mom, told us that it was just a day or so ago that your stepfather was able to give you a hug.
But it's the first time that she was 16 years old. I needed that. Just that moment, it was like just a moment of comfort. That's what it was.
So I'm sorry, but there's some things, we're talking about. So what's going on at the house right now? Are you staying with your mom right now?
At the moment, so we can get into the housing for the ministry. Because they're going to make it somewhere. We're going to I'll give you all the address and everything here. But I'm trying to do that so we can do it with the case to get case in.
Who all staying at the house right now?
My brother's going to be there for until everything possibly longer. Paul's there. Everybody that's originally living there. But with the addition of my brother, Beth, you said the kids before. I got back when I left. She took care of me when I was a baby.
Did Mom tell you we found that in bed?
Yes.
She was like, oh, there's nobody here. I was like, I'm just, we gotta check for safety. And she was like,
came downstairs and I'm just like, and she's like, I think they got my phone. I was like, probably.
yeah, we're gonna get that back to her before she leaves.
She's like, I was like, probably.
With everybody there, has there been any additional searches that y'all have done on your own, anything?
We found, there was one day that we got a psychic. And I said something about a container of books.
Like the one your mom sent me. She kind of poured along anything she's got.
Yeah, when that happened, Mom and I tried to went to the garage, even though we knew y'all searched it, we still went into every container we could, searched and looked. I was just like, oh no.
What's the blonde lady seem like and has the daughter? A little bitty.
Renee, she's always spits out.
She is, and she was ready to search everything.
She's like, escort everything. Like, y'all gotta get off the property for a long time. They want to get there. I'm like,
that's when Scarlett was running around. I was like, these two are very similar.
She's so much. She'll go to the TV or look over the first.
Yeah. But she's been ready to search. She said they searched the canal, they searched the land. She was still done anywhere that.
No, we've been trying not to trip on anything that could possibly be anything.
Yeah.
So honestly, I said that to you too, but walk around. When you do see something, don't
that's the right thing. Call us.
Take a picture of it, call them, send it to them, tell them location. Don't touch it. Whatever it is. I don't want to walk into the woods or anything like that because there's sense and or something that could be there.
Yeah. Well, that was the last thing I think the dogs were doing today since it went back to, I told them last time I talked to you directly when, we went back, Tuesday, I don't remember the days of the week right now, Monday, because like I said, we couldn't see a lot of dark, and the dogs guys work the same way, and the dogs don't live here, so they had to do that on its own, but,
that's kind of interesting with everything that we want to do to make sure that we do absolutely everything we can and we get it all right. We don't want to miss anything. And I know that's important to you, right?
Yes.
So with that, just kind of not wanting to put words, in your mouth, but being the time and space that's passed since the last talk, maybe there's a chance that you were calling things, differently or something new that, it just didn't come up before that we didn't ask.
Yeah, we've been getting it to the long run every day.
Well, and you know what, so honestly, Wednesday was the biggest shock, right? And you're trying to get everything in order what you think happened.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you get a chance to breathe a little, it's, I've said this to someone this week. You ever drive home, you're like, how did I get here? Because you're on this autopilot, and then you really think like, oh, there was a yellow car. And now you've had time to get farther down the road. And so if you remember something differently right now, it's not because you were wrong then. It's because, okay, I've had time to just kind of let it settle and see things more clearly when, the shock of it all has had a chance to kind of come down. So we're not going to come down on if anything's different because there's a lot to be said for some time and space to kind of things that you didn't think about before because they weren't the big thing, or
I know so most of that because I'm just pictures there. They're asking me that too. Like, can you feel any detail you can mix? I just want to feel my experience. The only thing that makes sense, the only thing that completely hasn't baffled is the door to baffled.
nothing included.
It'll be in terms of baffled work. That is the only thing that I can't actually roll everything.
And to be honest, we're double checking, beyond just that data that Joe had, to see like what is this really mean? So we're again running through the carpet on every single thing.
So with that in mind, let's just kind of go through a few things. So let's just start with The Circle K. Tell me about the phone call that you made. I guess it was a Tuesday night or Wednesday morning to Circle K.
It was a quick phone call. I can't honestly remember if it was on my phone or Jimmy's phone. It was on one of the phones. I called and I said, what if they're not having it for me? Jimmy's a showstop. It's just man having it. So that's why I went and got Misty. You might not really take the word of Misty. There was 3 Jews, but they only had 2 words. And one that had something in it. And one that had something in it was when I got some people from her. And so okay, like, normally they have it. Normally they did not have it. I guess they showed us on the next day or whatever. I used to work there, I believe, on Saturdays. What's it on? Thursdays, Fridays. And then after I went back, I went home. I stepped outside to purchase something to cigarette. What else? I ended up on it. I'm pretty sure I did have a little skirt shirt in there. I did. And I went down.
Okay. Because when we look at the phone records, you know, for that, when our investigators look at it, there's not a call from your phone to the Circle K. So, you just kind of help me understand that. Do you think another phone was used?
It's possible that it was Danny's phone.
So you didn't use Danny's phone?
It's possible because he had his phone right there all the time. I have really bad signal inside the house. I just rather live there. I kind of wish I could slip on it. I don't know how to get signal in the house. They never said they were sampling. I get signal out and come to you throughout the whole house.
Okay. And the 911 telephone call, I have to say, when you put a statement together, you did a phenomenal job providing just a tremendous amount of detail that's been helpful for us throughout this entire process.
And I was speaking of them, can't find the doors, so I'm a baby if you want to pretty much to read it every time.
Within that statement, you mentioned, or you put it in writing, that you made the 911 call.
Yes.
But there's a male voice on the call.
Yeah, he tried to call his phone first. For some reason, it wasn't working. So then we called my phone, and after he started to speak at first, but the way he was speaking to me was way too calm, and that's when I heard the chime in. So that he worked together. Yeah, we were together, and he was being very calm with the call, and I was like, no, look at him, I'm a baby. And that's when I was like, we started screaming and yelling at him about it. So.
Okay. And that was an absolutely chaotic time. You wake up out of your bed, and somebody's not there. Let's just go back to that point. I know that's super stressful. Let's just go back to that point when you got out of bed. Tell me what was the first thing that you did?
The very first thing I did was turn the phone to the time it was. I said the door, and when I said the door, the kids were still up, calling, and was looking around. So before I even started, I just started searching for it. What do you think it is? Suddenly found out that I didn't know. When did it come? You never know. It just happens. And you're like, oh crap. You know? I remember I searched the house closets too, because they have this thing about playing set closets. And the way the door's open, the door never shuts. Like you can push it open and pull it or whatever. Those were some of the first business I checked. And then outside, I had a really jumping pool. Pictures and my pictures at your picture now.
I think you done it for us too.
Yeah, that was it. That was the second time. The very first time, I had it open. You know, so I mean, just want to be home at the end of the day. I go to bed every night. I researched everything. I got it up and I looked at his face and the blanket was pointing. And I looked pallet. And the blanket was outside of it. And there was a pillow right there. You know, his tablet was still there. I can't find this animal anywhere. And the day he mentioned something about that, I was like, Michelle, she came over a couple weeks ago and had a bunch of toys and rugs. So sample or something, they had a cell phone on. And that's where I came from. He also, his monkey one was there, and that was in the thing. Yeah, no, it was in the toy basket, it was in the outside of it. You know? So, I told him that way. So,
And Michelle brought it over.
yeah, she got yeah, but I don't know exactly. It was just cell phone. She brought baby dolls and
Deliver him, it was a new toy, so it was in favorite.
yeah, it was just new toys. You know, that was just one.
Let's just kind of go back through that because Paul and Michelle, they tell an entirely different story. Entirely different story. Paul and Michelle tell an entirely different story. So let's just kind of go back through that. I want you to understand that what you tell us, what you remember, is absolutely just as important as what Paul and Michelle remember. So let's just walk back through that, okay? And a lot of times, the best way to do that is doing what we call reverse work. So we
Michelle was already on her way.
So it's,
Yeah, before that, like, Michelle was already on her way. Because I was trying to figure out for some reason. And this is weird, like, we pay for the week. We pay for the week, too. But other than that, we don't do good. So, that was on me, you know. I called Barry, I called her, I called home. She came over and helped me search. This to this day, she was there for the coffee. You know, her car was...
so how would she get there?
Yeah, her car was trapped in front of the house. I never before I was searching the house, speaking to me, I was
So let's talk about that, right? You know, so 911, before that, it was a call to
Michelle.
Michelle.
See, for some reason, she had me.
Okay. And then before Michelle.
Before that is bam, searching the house and all that stuff. We even outside, inside, part of the plans we searched or whatever, and then when I couldn't find it, it's like we still had to be late, but one there. You know, so before that was just like, yeah, I slept the whole time. And I didn't want to put my judges out there.
That's better, so.
I was on first.
You did.
I did. It was very good. Yeah, I did. And that's part of what I did do. When I was like, if you got a friend, I just tell what you about.
You know what, right there, I was just stopping.
Yeah, I did that.
Just so we're all clear on what she said, was that her disclosing a new fact that you hadn't heard before?
That's correct.
What was that new fact?
At this point in the interview, she disclosed that the purpose of the trip to 204 was to get a perk 30, a Percocet 30.
And did she say whether she had taken it that night?
She did.
And her words here were, I was on drugs, right?
Correct.
Right. And I'll pick that up. That was paused at 14:46:05 on the timestamp in the top right corner.
It was a process. I was trying to I didn't want to put the house in place. Okay, because someone was yeah.
But that's huge for us, too.
Yeah,
So you just tell someone.
yeah, so it was out Croydon Lane. You think that's real? I never really went to it.
She's gonna worry about it.
I just know where to go. I went there, that's where I meet up.
Now, pausing at 14:46:34, did she just say that the place she had actually gone to meet the drug dealer was Arkwright Lane and not Flacco's Tacos, as she had said previously?
That's correct.
All right.
And I know they said that they don't he wasn't upset or something like that.
But we're retracing.
I was like, they know me. I know to be there probably about 100 times in a couple months. You know, like, so that they all know me there. Yeah.
And that was let's talk to that. What trip was that?
That was the trip to 204. I was at 10 something. A little bit after. We got there at 10:40 something. No, I got home at 10:40 something. Yeah, it was 4:40.
Tell me about that. You know, how was that hurt? You drive back home and
They actually got home. Yeah, like they,
I wasn't either.
yeah,
I know that.
you know, it's not. So, when you take somewhere, it's not like maybe it doesn't take when you take over 30. That's just what,
Just get it.
it is a pain away, you get like, yeah, well, that would be the reason why I was also, you know,
And you had a Percocet in conjunction with somebody.
yes, that's what I'm not. Because I said this, it was like, last time I was supposed to say it, by the time,
About what time did you do that?
by the time I got home, I took it at 11 something or whatever. I still had some stories right there, but it took like, it wasn't that, it took like an hour or so for it to release, which is why I thought it overdone. By the time I got home, that's when the order done, I was like, it was kicking. It was hitting. And I was a little strong, I thought I was strong. You know, that's how I was from the spirit. So one of the times when I was really out there. And like I said before, when I started to check on all the kids and everything, all of the skies now. The Jay was doing a little come up, Peter was making it come back over him. Yeah, he's going to walk away here. I was still looking at his face, I was just like, this, you roll over and sleep, so it's okay. You know, just roll over and don't walk in. You know, outside. Came outside and I smoked and came back inside before 2. And I went to sleep. And I woke up and that would be reasons why I didn't hear the alarm. It was very nice sleep. It made me sleep. And then once you get still in his, and it makes it right there. You know, just like saying nice, it makes it right there. I mean, pretty much what we have, the places we have. Like, it was bad. It was yeah, it was bad. I should say, back to the whole thing. So,
And we'll come back to origin, some things I want to touch on there. But the origin story, tell me again exactly, how that played out, with you being the origin.
I got out, going around and got the text on it. There's no download, I can't do it, so I have to public see it. Oh, no, I told her. It was her husband thanks her first, I believe, and I just asked her to see it, and she said, come through this morning. I was putting her to get back. When we went back, we drove all the way around transfer right there towards the park. That's all we're doing. Yeah.
Well, just a couple things on that. I want you to just help me understand. Missy has no recollection at all. And she did not, there's no communication. There's no communication between you or Missy on Missy's phone or on your phone about you.
I don't know if I've ever told you context now. And we get to the phone numbers, it changes over a certain amount of time. The numbers that change on its own. You know, especially when I'm paying for it. So that would be part of the reason that I text him for a minute and not talking at all. If it was over escalation. Because it's easier, it's own number, it's easier for me. Yeah. So that's what I told her. You know, it's like 229 number we were told.
229.
Her number, you guys just not text out number or something. For the longest time, the phone was on. That's what she had with.
Prior to that, when was the last time that you had any communication with
It's
Missy?
like I ran out of gas. I broke out the road and I walked out to the house and knocked on the door and asked for gas. And her and my husband walked with me. All the gas, okay, take gas. And we went all the rest of it. And that was a stupid night. I was very angry about some cheating that I found out what was going on. Over maybe 2. That was right after the baby before. So it was a
No. Just tell me exactly how you drove into the trailer park, how you drove in, and where Missy's house is.
and we tried to have Missy's house is one very big house is on the right hand side. So I walked in and she locked up.
So you went to Missy's house. Did you go inside her house? She was just standing
I just
outside.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, like, I knew the police kept me
How long did y'all interact there with Missy? How long were you there?
2 to 3 minutes. It was a quick little conversation. Everyone has her mouth full and some, she has some crap and stuff. She did, while she was outside. So that was part of that. And then, when I got in the car, whatever, we gave her just a little on the trash. Yeah, I did on the trash. This damn was supposed to take trash out a few days ago and there was spilled food all in my car. So I pulled around and seen my gas out and food in the trash. You know, it was points, like shrimp pasta.
Shrimp pasta.
Yeah. The whole car's like shrimp. You know, yeah, I was standing there, I was like, what is that smell? I felt that before, even though I go to a 4. You know, I felt that before, and I'm like, get out of the car, I'm like, and we use Glade trash bags. The guys say they're Glade gray trash bags is what we use.
So did you stop anywhere else at all?
I went straight back home, and that's when I broke up on the way. I was going to those times. A little time to it, I was going to the morning. I bring it home, when, you know, I was like, just kept taking the kids outside, so just stay here until I went to bed for the week. I didn't know Danny had bed. Even though Charlotte thought it was weird that he didn't bring up the kids really good, because like I said, I basically leave kitchen machine right off of it. So whether I go to work or not, we do it that way so we have a steady pay rate. And then sometimes my pay might be, I might have to pay a little bit more than can't show up for a couple of days. Anything like that, we got issues like that, but she's always been paying. She's always been paying.
Sounds like you were nervously, but you were.
I didn't even remember one thing, so that he shook me before he left. I didn't even feel that. I didn't know that he even left. And I was like, oh, that's surprised, honestly, that the sky and the kids and the foot wasn't there. And it's, I don't know how to react. I freaked out. The same woke up to me screaming and picked up the box. And so, but that's everything. Straight out to the T. A lot of it. And like I said, we can see, make sure that we're way on there and coming out.
Well, let's look at this. Maybe some of this stuff will help you recall some more detail. So I'm going to slide over here. See the side. So this is the photo of your car. That's your car, right? Looking at your car. Going into the trailer park. And where exactly is this in the trailer park? Car trailer.
Yeah, it's like, you get up to where we use the car, and we go down the street to this street.
So that's when you first pull in, and there's the trailer down here.
Yeah, and it's my first one, and that's when I was coming out. It's not really self-contained.
So right here. So you look at that, what do you do?
That's what's there.
And where's Missy's house? Missy's house. All right. Before we can take more right, you went to Mrs. house. She came out of the drive and went back there. So this here, we have out there that one. This is a photograph taken from the dumpsters, looking back there. But what you can't see in this picture is the camera that right there that we now have. So that we have that camera right there. What is that camera going to show? Just that's a long back. Where did you pull that back out? What was that? And this is why we started with all of
And just shrimp pasta rubbed in it. It's great.
Yeah, it was shrimp pasta. It was just old thrown out food that he was supposed to do that. But it was good. So everything out of the fridge. Pasta was like on the fridge.
much later, you got out of the car and you got out of your driver's side door. Once you do this, you walk along. To the back. And when you got back in the car, like you did trash, you went to the trash out of the hatch portion.
Yeah, like I looked at that.
There was the car here.
This way, ready to get out.
Then it does, yeah. Right out and
You're there. Just
kind of look around there.
This camera, that's exactly
Just gonna get out the front side, just go back, grab it, just a message for a second, I think so. And I was gonna grab it, grab it, grab it. So that's exactly what I'm doing. Straight back on that in the house, and so yeah, that was it. That's exactly what I did. The trash bag things we always have, no matter what, so I always use clay. And the ones that we have are clay, looking trash bags. I guess, which thing?
And you know anything else? That was the only thing.
That was the only thing I was back there. That's nasty. But I was thinking about sleeping out on the cereal, but someone something why not. And then I asked me what's on the cereal, it's baby cereal, it's rice based on real baby cereal. And somebody gave me some, and one of them she had just opened and I made it jewels. So I was back there, I guess one of the turners I took or something, just busted open the back and I went.
There's something else on the ground. Just get in there. We'll be right back. Today you just sit down with you learn a lot. You guys hear you and the truthfulness. You just have to sit somewhere.
And you'll let might at least maybe help y'all connect to
No,
that.
just you just wait in. Honestly, for the first time, I spent
I have a
2
problem
hours
with
with
worrying
myself.
about other people's safety, other people want to go for it. I didn't want to be listed, you know, and then just, I could have fighted for myself. And that's how I ended up in the situations that I'm in. Because by the time that I'm good, I haven't taken care of myself. It was too late, you know? So, you know, ask that myself, if people are not saying, what did I not self-confident to do? Because I told you about what I'm so for. That's the truth about myself. I didn't know.
Just a little bit. But let's carry that a little bit forward. At this point, we're talking about we're not talking about things over here. And right now, when it comes to one, I'm going to go leave on. So I want you to understand that. But let's take this truth and this path that you're marching down like that. Take that a little bit further. Because, before it was just like $20. But now, kind of open it up. Now, I think this is the utmost thing that's important in mind. And that's all you're thinking about. Because we don't go for money going back. So with that in mind, let's take the next step. And the next logical step is you got the cover sets. Where did you get the cover sets from? They're talking about home.
Yeah, there's multiple people there. There's Greg, there's Craig, there's Tim.
Who mentioned Greg?
But he might was Craig.
Correct. Okay, tell me about Greg.
I'm going to 5 or 6 years.
5 or 6 years.
There's a person every time I expect it, I mean, just all person I have
Yes, sir.
He's a taller black man, he's 46 years old, dark skin, long face. He's actually very nice guy, just actually. Yeah, besides his business or whatever, he's always been like a top lady, stay focused, I don't know about that person. Other than that, we've never actually like hung up on that, it's just no other, they don't want, When I first met him, that's how we even became like that, because that's the apparently it smoked me up to the point that I could even like, come on, my friends, I don't know. So that's how that started. I don't even look like something. And sometimes we'll even call, it's just pull up, not over.
So is he the winner that you have?
Yeah.
With in the camper?
Yeah.
He comes to the house?
Yeah, he didn't come to my house.
So he comes to the camper?
He goes to the camper and back of that same property. Because I'm very back of the property too. There's a camper back there and some other old houses back there.
What kind of cars do you have?
The white van is one of them. I want to say it's like an older 2010 maybe, something like that. And he's got a black truck. And there's only 2 guys for the property guys, but those trucks are vehicles. Trying to be smarter. So it's hard, but I know for a fact that he just consistently drives a white van. That's what you think of your house? Yeah, well, he never came to my house ever. Never came to my house. Yeah, he never knew came to my house at all. Did he know about the air house figure? Yeah, he never come to the house. I always came out there. There's only one other time that he actually met me somewhere right there next to a base of those peanuts before water. We got car washes. And that was a couple weeks ago.
Well, I've seen on your order. That would be something that would have been pretty awesome. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Okay. So just those little things are what help us find claims. Okay.
There were 2 times that I did go with the kids. They stayed in the car with me and David Nolan, I've been on, whatever. And the last time I had them, Scott was 2 weeks old, and basically kids, nobody helped them, nobody got called, and that there's, that was it.
When did you put the trash bag? So you went to go get the oil job. Was the trash bag already in the car?
Yeah, I could smell it when before I even like when it ran out of the car to begin with, moved to a car. So, and I think he put it in the car earlier that day because like it's maggots or anything, like you can smell it, it's nasty. And when I even he forgot to take it off. So when I finally got the car again to go to order and smell it, I was like, stop so serious. And I'm like, okay, so let's put this in the order.
Was it like full kitchen trash or just like?
It's full kitchen trash, like full for it to clean out from here. So.
I just want to leave you because I want you to understand that Savannah and I here, this investigation is going to continue. We want to know if there ever is a point in time.
That's why I make sure that I get this one of those numbers. So that's I'm telling you that when my brother when he came, we sat there, we walked through it. He's like, well, let me ask some questions, and maybe somebody didn't ask. I'm like, maybe you know, somebody like maybe. Just get it with my other time. So every single day, even when I had coffee, we sat down and we talked. We talked over and over again. And he said, they put it on me. And then he was just letting me scream. And they were realizing I was crying in my sleep. They were still yelling, Quinton, in my sleep. I want to be home. I want to go home. I want to go home. Escape. There's no home. No home. There's no home. Kids on the floor. Those little arms are like straight here. That's all I want to do. Everything was stopped. It was yelling stop. But I didn't think anything of it. To be honest, just on food, out of the car, see an opportunity to put it out. Now we're going to get from her because I had food where you can see that I didn't purchase it. I didn't know where to purchase that or where to go. Like that, it was getting.
Well, that's another thing that kind of worked through. And we may not get through that today, but we'll get through that. But just like we talked about in the process, it was a little bit to get that. We're going to work through.
And there are times like that I didn't tell first to them because I don't really know. that was the second time I started together for myself within 2 weeks. Yeah.
But everything you said today about that makes perfect sense, and you can confirm it.
Yeah.
Like right now, there's still some things that we all work through because we can't confirm.
That's what we want. You see how easy that was to just tell the truth and let somebody work it. And we have to have that same conversation as it relates to innocent. So
And I did.
let's talk about that.
Yeah, I did read this.
Well, I want you to know that I, myself, have spoken with this. Multiple other investigators have spoken with this. And since been to our office, you didn't talk to this. You did. So let's just get through the raw truths. Because how it just comes down. Missy did not have any communication. There's no record of that. Missy came in. She talks to you after night. She talks to, law enforcement. She had no recollection. But she didn't tell me the truth. You didn't tell me that you ran out of gas. You got me some minutes for. That's absolutely true. But what's not the truth? What is not the truth? You understand this? Because you didn't go see Missy that night to the old shop. So just tell me what you were doing in that trip. What were you doing in the trip?
What did you do, John?
But you didn't hear from Missy.
I don't really know exactly what that was.
But you did hear from Missy.
Yeah, I was driving around. To her and all that stuff before I was driving around and stuff and whatever. And I was like, people through there, hoping that headlight was on. Hoping that something was on the car in the back or something. Whatever, but no.
That takes us to this right here.
Yeah.
That takes us to this.
But
So look at that.
yeah, I don't think I rode. But we go around the road, slow somewhere.
So what's the one?
Yeah, no, I was on mine. Nobody was with me. I told Danny I was on the road and he was half asleep, so I didn't know what was going on.
So like this is, I'm just really close. This is what I want you to understand. And take a deep breath. What we're talking about, Quantico. And right now I'm just sitting here talking to you. What we're talking about, purposes that you got.
So now I was there, and I was
I want to get that. But you gotta understand that you have got to be 100% true. 100%. That's the only way that we're going to do it.
I didn't speak to whoever I did. I would have to just find out something to work.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Because
If a lot of time, I'm not going to work. Yeah.
because you didn't work that night.
I did get work that night.
You were working.
But I found it, and the cars were the ones I lost. And I found them right back to the house. Okay. And I got a phone call.
So the whole purpose of this trip
Was to see if Missy would tell me. Because honestly, I didn't remember anymore than anything. And when I got home, I text him. It wasn't on there anymore. It doesn't give me the number.
So help me understand this. I need your help here. Without you, I can't find Quentin. Okay. So you gotta help me understand this. So when you your house at 1:11
13, 1:16,
to go randomly drive to Missy's house.
she's on the way up. They're all on the way up when I ran out of gas last
How
night.
did you saw it was
When
doing?
I ran out of gas that night, it was 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, went over there, got her absolutely. And she didn't answer, I didn't say her people. I never could. I could do it. I could smell her. She was nasty. He was like, oh, seafood and nuggets on it? Yeah.
So a lot of that.
So that's the end of that. No, but I was all just, I didn't go anywhere else. I didn't do my phone anywhere. Everywhere I went, was right there.
So what you did was you left the house at 1:12 in the morning to go throw away trash.
No, I really don't come forward. I felt like there was nobody on in the fight that her son died. Whereas was in here.
Was not there?
Because no, it's not like there's a front, there's like a tree right there in that area. You know, into the next there, you can see it.
Well, that's the photograph right there of you pulling into Jose Airport.
Now it's fell down, you can look over there and you can see it.
There's not quite as easy as it is. You know, there's a hard right, so you go straight this way. This is the data right off of like 360 and your cell phone data. Okay.
And if you look down, you can see her tree. That's right there in front of the house. You can see it. And if the first shot was on, you see him looking. There's not one person his bike against the tree. And normally if that bike is there, somebody is up because he's in. You know, so I went back home and I got home. And we looked in the car and we found the door, told me to the seats and I think it's on there. I don't know where I got on time. No, so I'm putting an order one because of my boss. I'm not going to have problems for the following. But no, I did not do that one sole purpose of from church. It was with, okay, let me see, that's not purpose. And I can't find it. Let me go see if the report studies are.
Is Orgel powerful in purpose?
One, based on the inside of your tooth, because my tooth is broken down or whatever. I mean, it's something that I took the pain away until the tooth is fully hit. So I put it right there. It's a copy of it actually fully hit me. By the time we got home, and I'm sitting there, like, it was starting to hit, and I left. But I could just feel it coming on.
When you left work,
I left the house.
but you took the purpose when you got back to the
No,
house.
it was like a left, yeah, no, I didn't take it as soon as I got back home. I took it in 30 minutes, 40 minutes, or whatever.
So there's a lot of
It was 11 or something. It takes about an hour for it to hit and it's gonna change.
It takes an hour for purpose.
Normally, it depends on if it's fast acting or if it's old. But after I think it was old, it took a little bit longer to hit and obviously it's old because people can't get all of these scripts that easy.
that is time.
And when it did it, had the right reaction for people. But when it hit, it hit. And it said T189, so I know for a fact that was right. My sole purpose was really, you don't see the shoes on, you know, board, no weapons on, no privates, and so I just kept on driving. And I got a car, I couldn't figure out some reason that I really did the way he's supposed to go later every day after we got the teeth and stuff.
So you only went for your trash? Where
Yeah.
you put that trash in?
Normally we take it to Azalea or Cottondale. Cottondale was the two places that we go to, and every now and then my brother told me about taking it just late because I guess they have construction or whatever going on, they wouldn't have a problem with going on.
When did you put that in the car?
When we got back to the house before we picked up the kids, so we got home and they said we were trying to clean up, make dinner, all this stuff, get things ready for when we did get the kids up for 30. So part of that cleaning was cleaning up the fridge and everything when we come to the shower. And we never went to go shopping for the car. And that's what we were on to do. So all that stuff we did.
So you threw that in the van before it's over?
Yeah.
Don't use the trash cans for it?
No, I was supposed to put it all. It's supposed to put all of it. It's like you got distracted or something. You put one there or one somewhere. I don't know. But I was nasty. You're supposed to take it off. And it's because Thomas gets mad when we got this. And another one like it. But that bag of trash was already started before we even got to cleaning out the fridge. It was already sitting in the trash can. When we got there, we finished cleaning it out. And I was looking there. We didn't have gnats and flies and all that stuff. The house fruit flies and all whatever. And I think it's just because of the weather changing. And yeah. Later, I was like, it was nasty as well. Like, if we ourselves, like, we want to go down and figure it out. Like, it's not good.
In first?
Yeah. Like, it was, but there's some shit all the way sometimes. And we went down. And the milk was still like ages, so it was going wrong way. It was the other wrong way. It was days. That were nasty. And then big bowl of pasta sauce or something.
So yeah, that trash bag was in the car.
Before I got
When did the trash bag place in the car?
I can't tell you exactly the time. I know it was before we did that because the plan was to load up everything and get it.
So it would have been at what time?
Yeah, because he was supposed to keep it, but because himself, I stayed at the house, he was supposed to take off all the trash or whatever, and I guess get sidetracked and didn't load up the rest. Like I told him, go put that in there, we go in and load up the rest, we go take off the kids, and he didn't load the rest. Yeah.
Right, so again, it goes back to where we were Wednesday, and kind of where we progressed and where we're at. So now we have the process, and we know that we didn't need to miss it.
Well, that wasn't the intention.
It wasn't intentional, but what I was understanding is we were talking about the disappearance. We were talking about disappearance. That information that you just provided us could have led us in other directions that would help us find the person. You understand that?
Another reason is like, I see that, he sees his mother. He was seeing him in bed. He was laying there in the bed and he swore up and down to me that he seen him. Swore up and down that he seen him. And then when they came out, he's like, good question, what's wrong with you? I don't know. I was like, that just is something. You know, if you glance, it doesn't matter if you glance. If you're a parent, you know the babies are there. You know, and
That's all we want. That's all we want.
he's so pretty.
That's all we want. But you can see what I'm talking about. You can see what I'm talking about. We talk about process. We can talk about listen, it's not bullshit. You can understand. It's huge. It's huge. But you held on to that information and you didn't talk to us about that.
That's just interesting that it really, I've never been in a situation like this, and you don't ever think anything like this is gonna happen to you. And it's not there until the experience and I understand everything. I see there's some things that you told me exactly how I'm going, because it's not like a completely fine. But I love that was the truth. When she was there, when the light was on, like it was at night when I was on gas, I would have pulled right up there. I would pull it right there and I'm going to work. And she, that night I got the gas, and she gave me the bill at 2 o'clock and said, well, it's there. It's me. I didn't think anything, I just didn't think it would happen after 6. That was my thought process. What happened after 6? He was told that he was last seen at 6, and he said he's seen him when he left. He texted the babysitter and said that they're not coming. So if they're not coming and you were up at that time, you knew the babies were there. This is all.
Well, like I said, unfortunately, this is the last time. This is one with being sort of that way. Second Quantico. It's 4:30. That's the last time. So I can't confirm anything is correct still. Again, anything after 4:30. It comes down to stuff is just as simple as this. This is what it says. He tells us to 20% take one shot. Now, I'm not a narcotics agent by any stretch. She can't tell me.
It's a late release. When it starts to when there's sometimes that I've had to take 2 or whatever because we wait an hour and it doesn't hit. And honestly, there's a lot of facts that have to do with the fact that I was sworn that we could have been last week. And I was like, no. I didn't know what they were for all that. Happened. Just think. Yeah, and the day after. Yeah, and that Wednesday. Yeah. I just thought something. At that time, Kurt, go, weed, and whatever, they shot him out.
All in and around, all between 4:30 Tuesday night.
Yeah, all of them, and we worked from there.
So what you come from?
I already have that for a few days, it's really doing Marvin, and say that, but
Marvin.
yeah.
Tell me about Marvin.
Marvin's a coworker at Davies, we used to be, we did a couple of together. Yeah, he's got that.
What's Marvin's last name?
I have no idea, it's Marvin. So I call him, we both call him over his house. So this is, he says like a colon. So we kind of here, we're trying to figure it out. This is the 4 ways to come up here, it's gonna be on these streets over here. Conan? Yeah, no, like C-O-W-A-N. Count. So we got that from there, I think Daniel's when we bought that business. Like I said, it's like there's a little corner store. This is the corner store down here. They keep going on, it's this first street, and it's the last house on the right hand side.
And Marvin, blackout. Tell me about Marvin.
This lady sells weed, he's come to the house a few times. I've been giving them baby bags and big clothes and stuff for their little baby that Quinton and they're going out of, whatever, and he had just recently started selling coke again. He bought like a tea from him or something like that. He got baby coke or something. And he first spent like 40. We would see, I think it's Marvin Smith, is something that would be in one of our cash ups. Funding that. A day or so before. Yeah, something like that, maybe Tuesday.
So when did you use that code?
I was a day wager. I used to wake up and, I'm more like I wake up and about after 2 or 3 yesterday. So I do it throughout the night. And then I go to bed and then about, sometimes it's before 2, sometimes it's after 4. I just depend on how much I was doing. And what time of day I was having.
So just before you left, they would take the trash so that you had cocaine.
And like the goal wasn't to take the trash out, the goal was supposed to be that she was there. I couldn't get in contact with her. I don't know anything on Facebook, but I knew that she stayed up. And I knew that I had taken her home before we moved up to the street. And I did the same thing up to the regular, drove her off and watched her.
So you see this happen over and So, again, you're doing great. And this is the type of stuff that's going to help us find out. Okay. But, we have to find out what else is in the trouble back. Because, now.
I'm not holding anything back. Those details about 2 or 4 and right through there, that's other thing. Those are the only 2 things that I have back. I didn't want to go get in trouble, whatever. And I didn't really know how to 100% explain why the hell I just left and didn't call her or whatever. It's because I didn't have her contact. I used to. I got a text now that I changed my number, so I couldn't call her, but I didn't have her number.
Remember when you started cooking on Tuesday? Before or after the
What? January, so not long after, two people, I was started doing it could be with habit. I can't tell you exactly what everybody. And some of those who can get it is that we're off all the time. And whenever it's up enough, you see the doors opening up constantly over a period of time. A lot of it's gone. They're not smoking cigarettes, so they're really not.
So when you started before you took the kids, kind of used the streamline?
Yeah, remember, it's just whatever makes you high and makes you numb and not hurt. That's all I do. I brush my teeth, my snoring, I never smoked it.
So when you come back home from taking the trash to the dumpster, you do more cooking than back home?
I did the one exam again. I can't do that video. You do that. But pork food is and
That's where you do that.
I don't
Play house.
Let's stand up over the TV with an wall room. And that was the voice on top of that. And high end, you didn't have to bend down or something like that. And we had that cabinet was busy.
And so you're doing the cooking, that's while the back door is open and shut.
Constantly, because every time we hit one, we don't smoke a little cigarette. We hit one, everyone smokes a cigarette. Me, I would hit one to smoke weed and a cigarette. I always weed was always mixed in with whatever I was doing.
Let's go from, just like we did with the 911 call. Maybe this is my idea to call something. So let's go backwards from the point at which you stop in front of these dumpsters. So you're stuck in front of these dumpsters for how long?
Just a second here.
And just tell me from the time that you pull off to the time that you pull off, tell me, kind of in reverse order, what happened in the time that you pull off.
The time of the reverse order, so I'm backwards from it. I can see my light, I can see my light right there. Before that,
Just before that, so we're a couple steps before, so just before that, so that would include, going backwards when you pull off, that would include, getting back in the car, and then from there.
Did you turn the car off?
yeah.
You just left it running, ran, got up,
Yeah. And I looked at it first, I would always see it on camera because I really thought that he had already thrown it away from the kid. And I opened it first and I said, close it.
So you open the trash bag before you throw it in the dumpster?
Yeah, I didn't know all this. Like, I knew that all the shots needed to be taken out, and I knew I told him to take that out first, especially even if it was just one bag of tape, because it's not terrible. I said, like, get out. I closed it. Like, it was already kind of partially tight, but not completely tight, which is why the cards don't really fit.
So let's talk about that contrailer. And we're going to break this down in Kentucky, so just so we can understand. Okay, that's the point of doing this. Because, you told us just to sit here, I learned that the trash bag was placed in the car just before you went there as a kid, and you knew that was, you were there from the night before.
It was fine, like, it was just old food, like, older, just clean out of the fridge.
Whatever. But, again, I understand this. Do you think that that's something common that people do, is before they put the trash away, they open it up and look at it and see what's about to go away?
Yeah, we don't know exactly what it's in. It's like not completely tight. The color I even opened it when I probably didn't even a little bit open.
They could smell it.
I could smell it. So like, it's not like I opened the whole bag and looked and I pulled it up. Just like, okay,
All right, so let's keep on going. So you pull the bag out of the car, and you opened it to smell it. Can you tie it back up?
Not too small. I could smell it. It was already partially, not completely tight. Or whatever, like I was like, finished time. So,
How heavy was the bag?
It's like the old food. After I know I was spoiled, it was much.
Did you have to carry one hand or two hands?
The only time I did it over there, I should open the bottle. I was like, open it to a cell.
Where did you put it?
I believe it was this one.
That side door.
Yeah, right there.
Because sometimes you throw them over top, so.
No, that's right there. I'm sure that right there's a bone. It's already almost like right here to me.
So we push it in, you have to push with two hands to get it in there?
No, I just had it.
Was it pretty full? Like the dumpster?
Yeah, it was about halfway full, a little bit more than halfway full. I didn't have to use two hands. I just put it in there.
Okay. All right, so this is hard to do reverse order, because let's go just before that.
Just put that, drove on the 6 hours, and like drove on the facility.
Well, we know we didn't do that, right?
When you drive right here, the turn on the time, you can see that tree. It's literally that tree is right there in front of your house, right before the driveway. When you drive by, if you glance, you can see that. And you can see if the porch light is on.
Right, this point right here, here, because this camera right here sits right there. So you're already driven by that camera.
Yeah, it's right back there. As soon as I pulled in, I didn't see it.
Is there any points at all that you stopped in here to see anybody else that you know there?
I don't know anybody else in there. She's the only person I knew besides her husband and her kids. So I didn't. That's why I didn't go through the whole neighborhood or anything. I didn't know anybody else. I just drove this way. That's why they're telling you people there. You can see the tree. You can see the lights. They keep going, going around. I said, yeah, let's see this west coast. This went through. Now when I left, I was straight home before the car. Yeah, I don't know where they were going. Maybe I don't know if this is showing up. Not sure.
You got a line before you got the car?
Yeah, I believe
So you drove where you're going with it?
Yeah, I always had it. Anywhere I went, I could use it on the car.
And you slept in the car?
Yeah, it's one time I too. Probably a million traces of coke.
So at what point did you realize the smell was so bad that you should stop at the dumpster and throw it away?
It was before I even pulled out of the house. It was like the moment that I got in the car and the trash, I had time to sit in the car throughout the day, and I just smelled it, and I was just like, at first, like when I first left the 204, I smelled a little strong, but it wasn't too bad. Like, I was like,
No, not to make you want to stop it.
yeah, I don't know if it's jacket or anything. I said, maybe something just stinks in there? I don't know. Maybe it's the car itself. And it was and I got here, got back in the car again. I was like, I can't stand it. So we got up here and whatever. And I said, she was in her so I was like, whatever. And I went around and started, so I got to get rid of this stuff.
So was the bag heavy enough where you had to like drag it out of the
No,
bag?
I had to pull it out with one hand. I pulled it out with one hand and put it up there and just like that. So like anybody else would take the trash bag and throw it over his or pick it up and shove it aside, you know? That was it.
Did you see any people?
I don't think so. Not everybody. Yeah, I don't think I seen anybody. And when I was coming down going fishing, there's some black thing walking on the road and both all there, but he always walking up and down the road.
So you didn't see anybody else around the dumpster site? No, like that.
No, I mean, there was raccoons. There's plenty of raccoons out there, but that was it.
Okay, that camera, that's going to show us.
Yeah, right, exactly that. You see that it was, y'all see that it was pull it out easy, threw it away easy, there was no struggling with it at all. So something like that. All the food and trash, that was all that was in the bag. 100%. I smell it, sure, all of it.
Which one that bag of trash?
And it was on. And it was on. There was nothing but old food and trash from that village in that bag. But I didn't even know what kind of pounds of store, like that little boxes for it. I don't know about how much something weighs. And when I lost my oldest son, it was about 4 pounds, so I put it on like close to 32 pounds or something like that. It weighs a chunk of little solid dude. Yeah. That bag now no one can. You can see when I walk to the floor, you can see that I'm not struggling with the water, and it's not like I sat there and was like holding it or something like that. It's nothing like that at all. I just got out. It's like, damn, I thought we took that trash out. We didn't.
Well, just, again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. You won't go over and see.
You just won't bring it home. I didn't do nothing for my time. Okay? I did nothing to that baby at all, but work and care for him. You know, I got up for him, when I got out of going back home, he was there. When I got home, he was there. Do I know what happened between the time that I went to sleep and when I got up? I don't.
Something happened when you were absolutely with that in mind. Cocaine, weed, and Prozac. That's an all combination. So that's all we got to get to.
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened at all.
I know maybe right there in the moment, you had no idea. You know, you had the issue with me. Y'all were in an argument. You felt he was a baby. You were hurt. You were struggling. You had nobody to reach out to.
Y'all never help see me.
We see it in the video. I don't have a copy of the video here. But then I look and watch it. And we know the struggles that you were facing. We understand that. As best we can. We try to understand. We can't live through your life. We don't completely understand. Yeah. But watching those videos, you like what I said earlier, I heard for you. And I can understand that. But there was
told me there's nothing that happened to my knowledge that they was in a tent.
You have two other babies, you're by yourself, and something happens, and you're beside yourself, and there's no one ever can help you alone. And you've got two babies, got both, and you speak up.
And the day was 15, but how do you have that? My bed, watching TV, and I got straight really strong, and I really was there. Yeah.
Do you go with me?
No, he went to the east. My brother got there, and he was in the east, and I didn't have to. But it was nothing.
And the kids were in the house.
Awful. Every time, me and my brother really, when we were together because of the struggles of taking kids out in public and, going shopping and like that. So it was like he would go or I would go. And if we all went, it was normally right after dinner with kids because they were already in the car. But there's nothing that happened that would make him.
Right now.
I will tell you this, like, yes, I was messed up, and I was messed up, and I was fucked up, and I was sometimes sorry, but I'll change the way I was thinking. There was nothing that happened that I can remember. When I went in bed, as far as I know, he was there. When I woke up, he wasn't. So there was nothing at all, just my knowledge that I can remember. And I couldn't, and it is my fault because I was so messed up.
It's huge.
I was say that, like, if I did something to him, I don't remember doing it to him. If I did, I don't remember hurting him. I don't remember to take him to bed or anything like that. I remember seeing him in that bed when I went to sleep. That's what I remember. But I do, I remember that he's such a pretty baby. Sky's bottom, she weighs somewhere around 4 or something normally. Then I came up 3 or 4. I gave her that to the bottom out of her mouth because she had popped up. I'm pretty sure Danny or something. I don't remember on the bottom. Or whatever it was. Zane, I come back on the flip camera blanket. I remember putting serious face and he was asleep. I don't know anything else.
But something happened. That's why I went to this house. We're there. We know something happened. It wasn't, nobody's saying that you strangled, you killed your baby. I'm not saying that. But we both know something happened that night that we have got to figure out. And that's where we are. And I am pleading with you to help me help you control this story. Because you're put in a bad situation, a very difficult situation. We talked about this. The addiction to cocaine, the addiction to cocaine. When you cry out loud, you could smell out cocaine and go to sleep.
I know. It's going to go for so long.
So just help us go back. Quinton wasn't crying and you did something that you just actually right now pushed so far back in your mind. You love that boy on the I could see that in the video I watched. He was your pride. But you did something when you had no control because you wanted to influence.
I told him that I did not do anything to him.
You didn't do anything intentionally.
I don't remember doing anything to him. I always say Steve and I'm putting him in bed.
But you're not here.
I know, and I don't know where he came in. I really don't. I don't know what happened to him.
I know, we didn't even
I don't know. I want to know. I want to know so bad. Touching her baby. It's so hard. He was there when I went to sleep. And I was like, my cousin, I did something. There's something and I would take my responsibility, but I don't know what it was. If I did, and I don't know what happened, and I don't know where he is. I know you're gonna love my intelligence too. You'll ask me anything that maybe something to over, and I don't know at all. And I don't.
You said that right, but sometimes you don't remember when you changed until it's already happened.
Until it's already happened, yeah.
And then you wake up and you're back to yourself and your baby's gone.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. There wasn't a lot of time, which was a lot of thing, and I don't know if I did something to him. But if I did, I'll take my responsibility. Whatever you'll find, I'll take my responsibility, but I'm hoping to God. And I'll come home with him alive and well in my arms. That's what I want.
I just have some follow-up questions, Robert. Getting pretty close to being done with this direct examination. Just to recap a few things from that interview, I don't know how well people could hear it, so I'm just going to be on the safe side here. Did she ultimately tell you that the Percocet she had obtained that night was from Craig?
She did, that's correct, yes, sir.
And this was something that she had identified as Red in earlier interviews?
That's correct.
But in this interview, she confirmed that Craig and Red are the same person?
Yes, sir.
And in this interview, she admitted that she had met him at Parkwright Road, not Flacco's Tacos.
That's correct.
What did she ultimately say, eventually, about whether she had met Misty that night?
Ultimately, as a result of the interview, she provided that she hadn't indeed met Missy that night.
And that was only after first telling you in here that I did meet Missy 100%.
On multiple occasions, yes.
What did she ultimately say about whether she had gotten Orajel that night and where she had gotten it?
She couldn't get off the fact that she did get Orajel. So after we came to the determination that she didn't get Orajel from Missy, she continued to state that she had the Orajel, found it in her car when she got back to the house.
Is it the case that she offered this information about cocaine use eventually to explain her shifting stories?
That's correct.
And what did she say to you about the frequency of her cocaine use around this time frame? Not just that night, but just the frequency of her cocaine use generally?
Yes, sir. So that she was a daily cocaine user and she was using cocaine, Percocet, marijuana on October the 4th as well as the early morning hours of October the 5th.
And specifically, did she tell you that she had been using cocaine throughout the night that night?
She did, yes, sir.
Did she tell you that after she had gotten home from the dumpster, she had hit another line or two?
She did.
And did she tell you that she was all types of fucked up that night?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
At one point, did she say that I was so messed up on drugs?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And did she tell you that if I was so fucked up that I did something, I'd take responsibility?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
All right. Now, were you involved in the coordination and oversight of the landfill search?
Yes, sir, I was.
Now, can you tell us generally, in relation to the search area pointed out by the landfill manager and then later outlined by Team Adam, where were Quinton's remains ultimately found in relation to that box or so?
They were found in the lower left portion of the box that Team Adam had identified for the search team as the area to search.
Now, did you all keep an open mind during this investigation and take seriously the idea of Paul and Danny as suspects?
We did.
Why did the investigation ultimately focus in on the defendant?
Ultimately, there were 3 individuals in that house, 3 adults in that house. And of those 3 adults, there was only one that continued to lie to us throughout the course of the investigation.
No further questions, Your Honor.
You can take this opportunity to break for lunch, and Mr. Schroeder, you can begin your cross-examination when we come back.
Thank you.
Yes, the time now is 1:20. Let's be back at 2:20.